Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. I'm undecided how I am yet to be joined by my
You
esteemed
should be
colleague.
extremely grateful is how you should be. I'm hanging by a thin thread here, mate.
I was going to say, you almost failed a fitness test, didn't you?
Listen, I've got so many drugs in me right now, I'm like a legitimate law-abiding version of Tony Montana. I swear. If I'm found face down in a huge bowl of powder tomorrow, don't worry, it's just lem sips. But I'm here.
Likely story. It's
Oh, I'm a middle-aged man, for God's sake. And I might be at the wrong end of that scale as well, by the way I'm feeling.
Listen, no comments, no judgment here. Look, we're all going to turn 75 one day.
You'll need to help me through this.
Well, it's been another packed day in the
Need my lem
Premiership.
sip.
You know, people. I was thinking about this earlier. People can slag the Scottish football for its standard all they want. But it's for me.
It delivers,
so,
doesn't it?
so much more watchable than anything England offers. I shouldn't really compare it to England, but it's just brilliant Scottish football. Just so many talking points. And I think the best one we have to start with today is Rangers, fresh from beating Celtic 3-0 last week, drop more points at Easter Road. I mean, I get that.
And do you know the weird thing is, Dan, right?
Aye.
That, this is the first time all season that Clement has named an unchanged 11. Now, either the science department are still getting tucked into the eggnog, or they've been escorted off the premises, or they've been told to stay in their lane. But he's at a crisis point now where he had no option. It was entirely the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what the data's saying or where the red zones are. The right thing to do for him today was to send out that same 11 and see what he could get out of them. Then if he had to make changes.
Yeah.
They opened up like a house on fire. They opened up exactly the same way as they finished the game against Celtic. They were rampant. They were all over Hibs. They were 2-0 up inside of 20 minutes. Let's be honest about it. It could have been 3, 4 or 5 and the game should have been won. But that's the Rangers side that the Rangers supporters want to see. That's the best version of Rangers. The one when he puts all his best players in it. It's no rocket science here. Yes, they did run out of steam, and I'm sure the sports scientists will be jumping up and down right now, screaming about that. Look at Czerny, he was clearly... Yeah, we know they were tired. Sometimes, as Brendan Rodgers said the other day, you need to ask your players to go at the well. There's no metric that I know of or algorithm that's been invented yet which can determine the importance physically of a desire, a will to win, a situation where the mind tells the body what's going on rather than the other way around. And that's what I think Rangers have been found wanting. Maybe not so much today. Maybe today, by the way, is just an example of Scottish football being Scottish football. These, superb games, a really entertaining game of football. It's brilliant to watch. And maybe along the way, these games happen. The problem that Clement's got is that there's so much baggage now behind this side in terms of dropping points every time they go on the road that you can't use that. And afterwards, again, I think it was unfortunate that he started talking about sort of apportioning blame onto the referees and John Beaton for giving Hibs a penalty, which, by the way, could go either way, and we'll talk about it later. But that's not the problem that's holding Rangers back this season.
It's not why they conceded 3 goals, is it?
Well, yeah, exactly. The problem that's holding Rangers back is, what was that now? Is that 12 points out of 30 on the road? That's the problem.
It's only 4 wins away from home in their last 15 Premiership matches.
Yeah, extending back into last season, obviously.
Let's call a spade a spade. For a club like Rangers, that's not good enough. That's
nowhere near good enough.
Aye.
Nowhere good. But here's where it's interesting, right? The standard of that performance, the fact that he went with the same guys again and they produced again. Yes, they may have run out of steam a little bit. But I think Rangers fans might feel inclined, even the ones that were turning against Clement, they might feel inclined to look at that and say, do you know what? Maybe this is the guy. Maybe if this is how he plans to take Rangers forward, if this is the kind of football that the fans will get to watch, maybe they'll cut him a little bit more slack than they might otherwise have done. Because Rangers were pretty sensational for the first half an hour of today's match. A right good watch, as I said, kind of similar standard to the one they had against Celtic. So, I don't know. I made my mind up very early doors this season with Clement. I made it clear that I was highly sceptical and then went a little bit further than that. But I look at the evidence, when he plays his best players, Rangers aren't a bad team at all.
No.
And clearly, I think, unfortunately for them today, they're going to a really difficult venue against one of the form sides in the country. And their defence is what it is. It's a mismatch. It's who's fit? How are we going to put a back four out there? So you're kind of going into that game thinking, in order to win it, you need to just try and put the emphasis on scoring more than the other side, the opposition.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to do that today, probably because, if they had a suitor or something, he might have been able to get his head on the ball that Big Rocky Bashiri bullets in for 3-3 at the death. They were frail defensively, but that's understandable. They were really, really good going forward.
Well, look, as you say, we've got plenty to talk about. We've got tons of comments on today's game coming in already, which we really appreciate. And if you want to get involved in the comments, in the conversation in the comment section, earlier on though, Keith, I caught up with Record Sports' Andy Newport, who was at Easter Road for the game today, and here's what he had to say just after full time. Joined now on Hotline Live by Record Sports' Andy Newport. Andy, an absolute cracker of a game, a contender for game of the season, but another 2 points drop for Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game of two halves. I mean, it was unbelievable the way the game sort of swung back and forth today. Everything just really started. A game that just sums up Rangers' season, really, in terms of, 1 minute they can be scintillating going forward, terrific, 2-0, you thought they could win this by 4 or 5, carrying on from obviously that Old Firm win on Thursday, and then as soon as Hibs get one back, they really just all sense of control was gone. And in the end, they were at one point it looked like they could have lost it. Obviously, get themselves 3-2 up with a sensational hat-trick from Hamza Igamane. Allow Hibs to equalise with Bashiri, and they have another one that's in fact 2 each. They almost go 3-2 down. So I'm losing place trying to keep up with all the goals here. So a remarkable game, and even then Rangers could have snatched it at the end with Higamane bursts away from Rocky Bashiri. And what a game he had! He seemed to sum up the whole affair. Mental at the back, some bunkers defending at the back, and then obviously gets himself a goal and assist. So yeah, a madcap game, really.
On the positive side then for Rangers, Andy, as you say, Hamza Igamane, he looks like he could be an absolute star. I mean, I know we've talked about it, that he shows signs of that, but he's a bit raw. Today he was absolutely brilliant from start to finish.
I thought he was quiet on Thursday at Old Firm. I still think that's the next level he has to get to be able to make his impact in Old Firms. I think that's his third appearance in Old Firm, and obviously the first one was off the bench here. That was the first time we'd really seen him, and he had a wee sort of couple of flashes of skill. But at Hampden he was quite quiet, and then obviously I thought the same on Thursday. But here, wow, the perfect hat-trick, left foot, right foot header, just sensational from start to finish. And obviously, as I said, almost snatches a fourth right at the death. He's the guy that Rangers have to look to for hope for, not this season obviously, but for next season. He has to be the guy that they build this team around. There's still some big holes in this team that need filled, especially at the back right now, where Rangers really down to bare bones. Another injury today with Dujon Sterling. We've just spoke with Philippe Clement in the press conference there, where he says John Souttar's not going to be back anytime soon. It could be several weeks before he's back, in fact. And then obviously Liam Balogun's still a doubt for Dens Park on Thursday. So there's still some massive holes to be filled. But in terms of the guys that they can look to with promise and see potential, then he is number one at the moment, because he has shown real signs that he can be a top-class striker, natural finisher. But he contributes in the build-up in the way that Cyril Dessers doesn't. And that's what has allowed Rangers to have this platform of at least being able to score goals. Yeah, they were obviously they've dropped points, and that's 3 away games in a row now that they've dropped points. But he scored 5 goals in those 3 games. So I think, and he was obviously on the bench at St Mirren as well. So I think he's the positive sign. It's at the back where there's major concern. The 3 goals they conceded today were really poor. Philippe Clement's just come into the press conference and he's not happy about the penalty that they concede to allow Hibs to get to 2-2. But I'm not so sure on reflection. He's right with that one. For me, it's a clumsy challenge. I think Jans Hanji gets there late. I think it was the right call to give Hibs a penalty for there. But more than that, it's the 2 other goals that should be really worrying Rangers. It's a basic set piece into the box, and they just don't deal with it. And Martin Boyle gets a shot off and scores. And then the 3rd goal, it's just it's a great delivery from Nicky Cadden, I think it was. But it's right into the 6-yard box. It should be goalkeeper's ball or a centre half's ball all day long, and they allow themselves. And Liam Kelly obviously just come back into the team with Jack Butland being out, but he flapped a couple of deliveries into the box, and obviously Leon King brought back in out of nowhere just because off the bench when Dujon Sterling goes off injured, because they've got nobody else there, and found themselves pinned underneath Rocky Bashiri, who gets the goal. So I think that's where they really need to be looking this month if they can. If there is any scope to bring in reinforcements, that's what it has to be.
Yeah, I think that on the penalty, Andy, I saw Clement's comments about how unhappy he was. Look, I don't think it was the most obvious, outrageous tackle, but it's one that if you're the attacking team, you're raging if you don't get it. Like you say, it's a clumsy tackle. Yeah,
I think he gets there half a second too late, but he's too late. He's the wrong side. I think he clips him. I only saw a couple of replays before whilst I was writing my report. It looks like he gets a touch on the ball, but after he's wiped out Josh Campbell, so I'm not too sure that he's got much ground for complaint there. I think he's obviously saying he's looking forward to hearing what Willie Collum and the refereeing panel have got to say when this goes before it this week. I'm not too sure that they'll see them changing their mind. I think it was a justified award. And listen, but even then, Rangers and the build-up to the incident that brought the penalty, Rangers had the ball. They had 2 or 3 times where they just gave it away needlessly. So this is a drop points that they brought in themselves just by not being, careful enough with the ball. And the remarkable thing was that at 25 minutes into the game, you could never have seen it coming because they were so on top. They were so far, so dominant. They looked every time they went forward, they were capable of scoring. It was the same game plan that they used against Celtic. They just sat off, waited till Hibs crossed the halfway line, then they put the squeeze on, and it was successful and it was winning them. They stopped playing after that, and they allowed Hibs to get a hold in the game, and it ended up costing them. So it's frustration because it looked like Rangers had turned a corner with that Old Firm victory. But I think if you asked a lot of Rangers fans, you know that this team's flaky. You know that there's a Jekyll and Hyde quality about them, and I don't think anybody is utterly surprised or madly surprised to see this team go and beat Celtic 3-0, a totally dominant victory, and then follow up with this sort of, as you say, game of 2 halves performance.
That's what makes it, I imagine, so frustrating for Rangers fans. Outstanding on Thursday, keep thinking Sunday, on Thursday, brilliant against Celtic, thoroughly deserved, probably to win by more. But that's now 4 wins in 15 games away from home, which for a club like Rangers just isn't good enough.
Yeah, home form's been stinking. Away form's been stinking all season. Yeah, I mean, I think it was before last week. It was they'd only scored 3 goals away from home or something like that. I might be wrong. Right. And obviously they got a couple at Fir Park and 3 here today. But they've improved definitely over the last 6 weeks going forward. But at the back, there's still some major concerns. Obviously, Jack Butland before he went out injured, his form's not been great. Liam Kelly comes in today, and obviously he was talking about his fulfilling a boyhood dream by keeping a clean sheet and an Old Firm victory. But again, he didn't look great today. As I say, a couple of shaky moments with under crosses, and the guys in front of him didn't do him many favours either. So that is I think we all know that. Even with that victory last week, Rangers weren't going to be anywhere near a title race this season. Yeah. The Celtic are going to run away with the title. They've got to start working towards next year, and as I say, there's things there to be encouraged about. There's also some things that need major improvement if Rangers start. Forget this season. If they're going to be competitive next season, these are the things they have to start addressing now.
Yeah. Listen, Andy, thank you very much for joining us on the Hotline Live. I can see your laptop, your phone starting to shake in the wind.
It's a wee bit blustery.
I'll let you get up the road, but thanks so much for joining us.
Cheers, Daniel. Thanks.
Andy Newport there, Keith, from a very windy Easter Road. Before we get stuck into talking and getting some of the comments from people watching, why don't we hear from Philippe Clement as well?
See, before we do that,
yeah,
there's a bit of breaking news coming through just now. Brendan Rodgers after-match press conference at Celtic Park, which we'll come to later and we'll discuss in full. Hopefully Mick Gannon's going to join us from Celtic Park. But Brendan Rodgers has a real pop at the Celtic support today.
Yeah.
Really interesting quotes coming through. So hopefully, after, we get through Philippe Clement and all that, but I think Celtic fans will be really interested to hear this.
As you can see in the screen now, there's been a couple of Celtic fans that have already written into us saying very spiky comments from Brendan Rodgers. So, we will definitely come to that. But first, let's hear from Philippe Clement.
The penalty situation is, for me, I don't understand. It's a situation with a small collision between two players on top speed, where even the attacking players gets Yanis down by getting his legs from behind. Giving penalties like this, then you need to ask players with every contact to go down in the 16, what I don't want. And that's not how you want football to be played. So that was a very important moment in the game, because you create momentum for Hibs. We were leading, we were dominant on the ball. We didn't score the third goal, which would have made the difference. Then we come back, still to make the 2-3, and then it's disappointing on a set piece to lose this header and to lose 2 points. But we know also the situation we are in with so many defenders out. So yeah, it's a disappointing afternoon to lose 2 points, because there were a lot of positive of the team also. But at the end, you will remember the result, and that's not good enough.
In terms of, you said about the lack of depth that the team got, is there any scope at all this month to bring in guys? You're looking at your defence, another injury today. Are you going to need reinforcements this month?
That's something that Patrick will address towards you guys. He wants to give that explanation. What is the plan for January?
But do you feel that you need more players this month yourself?
I think every manager feels that, and for sure in the situation we are. For the moment with injuries and everything, but there's also the situation of the club. You need to pay it also, and I'm not the one who can pay that. I don't have that money.
Right, Keith, let me run through a couple of comments, because we've got so many in on this Rangers result.
Yep.
Muriel, Clement needs to button it. Everyone is fed up with the same old from him. It's always someone else's fault.
I don't disagree with that.
Me neither. We have a comment here from Rangers Easy OK, who are regulars. First time I felt a bit for Clement today. Don't think it's the manager's fault we throw away a 2-goal lead. The defenders we have are injured are just killing us. But the away record before this game is a sackable offence alone. You will no doubt limp on to the end of the season. Then a change will be made. We have a genuine asset in Igamane who will get us a fortune.
I agree with all of that. I'd also like, if I know that Rangers Easy OK is a regular viewer, I'd like to know if his opinion is changing, because I understand exactly what he's saying. I think he's right on all counts, but when he looks at what that Rangers team looks like with that front four and the kind of exciting variation going forward in the attacking areas, has it just sown a seed of doubt? Is he just starting to think that maybe Clement is stumbling onto something here? I'd like to know the answer.
Well, and just to finish, the one on your screen there, Marcel, here we go again, always someone else's fault with Clement. Drew McMaster, another regular. Get Clement and that proper defender out. And finally, John Matthews. You can debate the pen all you like, but that's not the reason Rangers drop points again, is it? They simply can't defend simple balls into the box. I mean...
Points are all spot on, by the way.
They are spot on, aye, definitely. And thanks if you're watching home for sending them in. But, Keith, going back to Clement, he's not the man, is he? I know there's definitely doubt, and I feel bad saying that. And who knows, with another couple of transfers.
Well, I don't think so. I think I've made that perfectly clear over the months. And I genuinely don't think that what this team is showing right now, in terms of what it can do in the final third and the way it can play. I genuinely don't believe that this is Philippe Clement's doing. if you know what I mean. I think he stumbled upon it. I think obviously Hadji has come in, played a massive part in transforming the way that Rangers play in the final third of the pitch. He didn't rate Hadji. He was playing by Rami out wide. He stuck with Dessers. How long has he stuck with Dessers? When, you know, he's got this boy. Look, and here's where I'm going to just give him a little bit and just have a little bit of doubt myself, because maybe Clement was right. Maybe he saw Igamane every day in training and he thought, simply not ready. But he must have been really, really, really bad if he thought that Dessers was a better option. That's the problem that he's got in terms of his own credibility. If Rangers, if he sticks to this kind of formation and the players, and by the way, I'm talking about a front four, but you've also got Danilo, which, you know, to come in. So if somebody does need a rest, you know, you can take one out, you can put one in. It's not weakening anything. You get 5 really good players for 4 positions there. If he sticks with it, who knows? But, you know, it's the body of evidence that's built up behind Philippe Clement, which makes you think this is doubtful that he is going to be able to achieve that. I'm going to cut him some slack today in terms of I think he got his decisions correct. I would maybe query the substitution when he put Connor Barron on.
That's what I was going to say.
Rangers had just gone 3-2 up, and rather I get it, because Czerny was blowing hard at that point, and you could see it. So I understand making a change. I'm not entirely sure you need to upset the balance of your midfield by putting Mohamed Diomande onto the right hand side and putting Barron in the middle.
And you've got Matondo on the bench as well. Who could have just straight swap?
Well, obviously at that point, 3-2, he's trying to shut up shop.
Aye, I get that.
But you know, young Barron, he's fit as a butcher's dog. I'm sure he could have done doggies up and down that right hand side defensively and getting forward. Diomande at that point, you know, he'd put a lot of effort in. So maybe, but you know, that's almost splitting hairs. You've got to cut the guy a bit of slack in terms of his defence is, you know, crumbling all around him. He's got no fit bodies. He's having to patch a team up and just send it out, as we said at the start, kind of hoping that his attack will score more goals than the opposition's. Because the defence is, and it's not about being critical about who's playing in defence right now, because they're the last men standing for Rangers.
Yeah.
And they're just having to make do. As for the penalty kick, Daniel, I'm cutting him some slack on that as well, even though I agree that it's happened. It's like the boy that cried wolf. He does it too many times. Clement, he complains about, you know, decisions made by people out with his own dressing room or his coaching staff, and tries to point the blame. That one was 50-50. It was a 50-50, and it was an ugly sort of coming together. And Hadji has he has come in from the wrong side. But I understand Clement's position, because I do think that Josh Campbell kicks Hadji's legs away from behind rather than the other way around. And so, you know, look, you couldn't complain if it was given one way or the other, because it was an untidy coming together. But I think if you're asking VAR to look at it and say, right, you've got slow motion replays, referee doesn't have that at full speed, what are you seeing, guys? I think if you study it, I think that Josh Campbell kicks into the back of Hadji rather than the other way around. So on that one, as much as I think Clement has sort of spoken too much about trying to apportion blame elsewhere, I mean, he might have a point, but again, you take that in isolation, because, well, do you know what? It only got Hibs back to 2-2. You still went 3-2 up, and you still didn't manage a way to win. Mm-hmm. So that's not on anybody else other in the VAR studio or in the middle of the pitch. That's on you. That's on your players.
And it's another, you know, we're talking about today, but as we say, it's 4 wins and 15 away games. You know, that's nothing to do with today. Rangers Easy OK's come back to you, Keith, actually. Mm-hmm. He says that Clement needs to go on a run from now to the end of the season, see improvements away from home. Attacking-wise, we look dynamic and sharp. Some of his signings will benefit his successor, though.
So he has turned.
Does seem that way. Look, people can clip it up. Philippe Clement, in my humble opinion, will never win a championship with Rangers. I just don't see it. I just cannot envisage it.
Listen, yeah. Now, who's to say that? I was going to say Big Angie. So who's to say that Jurgen Klopp come out of retirement, semi-retirement tomorrow, decide to take on the Rangers job? Who's to say he's going to win a title with that Rangers side just now? Not this Rangers side in particular, but with the club the way it's set up, the light years behind Celtic financially. I agree with you, and I've over and over I've bored myself with my criticisms of Clement, but all I'm saying is that I'm prepared to give the guy a bit of credit for, as I said, whether it's by accident or by design, this side is looking far more like a side capable of putting up a challenge than the one that we saw maybe 2 months ago.
Aye, that's fair enough. Aye, that's fair enough. Well, look, there was obviously a full card in the Premiership today. Another game involving another team from Glasgow. Celtic beat St Mirren 3-0. We're now lucky enough to be joined by Michael Gannon from a roasting hot Celtic Park.
Aye. Can you tell how hot it is? Yeah.
Mick,
Balmy.
Yeah. That's my pipe. That's not smoke off my pipe.
What pipe?
Aye, pretty routine stuff. Celtic Park. I mean, after the kind of wild and wacky day at Ibrox, it was more kind of back to routine for Celtic.
Yeah.
It was almost like the other day never actually happened. It was just like the kind of Men in Black pen getting used. It was all forgotten about. It was back to kind of the way things were. It was a pretty straightforward win. It took a wee bit of time to get going eventually, but it was. I think the most interesting thing about today was actually after the game.
Yeah, I'm going to say that to you, Mick. The quotes that we're seeing coming through from the press conference that you attended with Brendan Rodgers are very interesting.
They are. I mean, listen, having dealt with Brendan Rodgers now, his second spell and the first time around as well, sometimes you know when Brendan Rodgers comes into a press room that he's got something he wants to get off his chest. Mm-hmm. And you might ask 2 or 3 questions and you might stumble upon the question he wants you to ask him and you get the answer. And sometimes you don't really see it coming and there's something that he wants to talk about that you don't really expect. And this was the one today. It kind of just basically was asked about the response to the game at Ibrox and getting off to a really good start today. The first 5-10 minutes didn't get the goal, but they kept plugging away. So this kind of saying, yeah, you must be pleased with the response. And then he kind of often one about the kind of fact that the fans were kind of groaning at half an hour when the ball got passed backwards, and he basically saying, listen, that's not on. They need their support at 0-0, not at 4-0 or 3-0 or 5-0. Mm-hmm. How about a patience? How about a trust? Trust the team, trust the manager, they know what they're doing. And he came on often a bit of kind of rant about the punters and the kind of lack of patience from the crowd. To be honest with you, I've heard that a million times worse. I think it's that bad. Listen, we've all been at Celtic Park when the punters are a wee bit tetchy and the ball's going backwards and they get the grow. Remember Neil Lennon getting booed against Boa Vista in the semi-final of a European Cup competition? UEFA Cup, remember? For daring to pass the ball back. So it's not a new thing, but it clearly was something that kind of annoyed him. And then following on from that, the punters at the end, the wee section in the corner were singing about the name of Kieran Tierney. So after they kind of talk about the fans and the groaning about passing the ball back, it was kind of I asked him, I said, what about the fans singing about Kieran Tierney? Can you tell us anything? And that seemed to be even more annoying to him. I think he thought it was massively disrespectful to Greg Taylor. He said it's not on. He really was quite almost agitated, kind of angry about it all. Mm-hmm. Obviously, then we'll be back and cheekily asked if he was ready to sign him. So he shut it down quite quickly. Nothing to report on that one yet. But yeah, he just seemed to be a bit kind of annoyed today with supporters. So I've just
obviously, you sent me a transcript, Michael, from the press on the Kieran Tierney thing. He says there were a few things that I may have overheard at the end there. That's a total lack of respect. Of course there is. Greg Taylor, he's been absolutely amazing at this club. How does he feel? He nearly breaks his nose bleeding for the club, for a cause. It's not very respectful. You sing for another player no matter what Kieran's history is. I don't like that. And then on the stuff about the backward passes and the kind of moaning and groaning, when it was 0-0 for the first 20 minutes and would make a backward pass, the crowd would be onto the team. That cannot happen. And it wasn't just a fleeting quote. You were in the room. He then goes on to really expand on that, doesn't he? And come back to it and refer to it 3 or 4 times. Clearly something that he wanted to hammer home. Very interesting to work out why.
This is what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It was very much something he wanted to go off his chest, because the question that they asked, it was that's a question that I asked, but it wasn't the question that I asked. Wasn't the question that I answered. The answer was terrific, but it wasn't for my question, unfortunately. There's no correlation to what was asked and what was actually said. So it was clear that he decided, you know what, I've got something I want to say. I'm going to say it. And listen, fair play. I've seen it before. When there is something he wants to say, well, come off and get out there. So it was definitely something, a message he wanted to deliver.
It's interesting, Michael, that maybe this time 12 months ago he wouldn't have felt as empowered, or he wouldn't maybe felt that he had the mandate to do something like that, because he knew that there was a reluctance to accept him at first when he returned to the club. He was aware that there was a bit of unrest, and I think he felt that he had to win the hearts and minds. I'm not sure this time 12 months ago he'd have went on the front foot like that. I think he can only do that from a position of power, which he's now obviously established. Yeah,
I'm not sure doing it 3 days after getting humped at Ibrox is a good time to do it either, right enough.
Well, yeah.
I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of slack earned, and rightly so. But I think on the same week when they go to Ibrox and get doing, maybe no. Actually, I didn't think it was that bad. But listen, it's something that he wanted to go off his chest. And listen, fair play to him. He's absolutely entitled to it. It does show you that the position of power he's in at the club. And he has, listen, he's right. He's earned... He's had a team have lost 2 domestic games in what was it, 14 months or something like that. Albeit one was a bad one last week, but it's very rare to see it. So they have earned the kind of, should have earned the trust of the punters. I think they have to an extent. I think Celtic fans now don't get on their back as quickly as they have done previously. I mean, like say a year ago it was totally different. Yeah. A year ago, getting booed at home for you game after the game to win. So I think there is a
year ago Santa was getting booed.
Exactly. So I think it has. And I say I get back years. It's always like this. That the supporters get a bit tetchy going backwards and all that stuff, and they want to drive forward at all times. It's just the way it's always been.
I think he's annoyed because there's been a bit of a bad reaction to the Rangers result, and I think that's got under his skin a little bit. And I think that he felt that reaction today inside the ground was probably a consequence or collateral damage from the game at Ibrox, where the fans have turned up in a bad mood. I think that's what he thinks.
Maybe, but I don't think the fans did turn up in a bad mood. I think the result coming through with Maester Road changed the mood before kickoff. I've been in this ground when there has been fans in a bad mood, and I didn't sense it today. I mean, it wasn't particularly a party atmosphere, but it wasn't particularly angry or even flat. It was a wee bit flat, but not any more than you expect. This time of year, the game's coming thick and fast. It's not exactly the biggest kind of tie of the week. No disrespect to St Mirren. But no, I've seen it kind of more aggressive and more kind of catchy than that.
It's interesting then, isn't it? Because there's obviously a reason. There's a reason for why Brendan Rodgers came out and said this. There always is. He thinks you know as well as I do. Yeah. He walks into that room. If he wants to say something, he's thought it out. He never gets kind of pushed into saying anything. That's in his mind. He wanted to send that message out.
Listen, I think he might have been a bit miffed with some of the response from some fans to the game the other day, and some of it has been a bit OTT. I mean, as it always is. But this is Glasgow. If you get beat at a derby game, you get 2 days of wailing and gnashing your teeth, and then things calm down back to normal, and you move on. Especially now there's a 13-point gap at the top of the league. I mean, Celtic are a better position now than they were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So in the bigger picture, it's no harm done. But I think you're always going to get 40 hours of nonsense after a game like that. And sure enough, and I think some of the response has been a bit OTT, but some of it was pretty measured. I don't think they get battered. I think most people were just surprised more than anything else with the performance at Ibrox. No one's seen that coming at all. So I think that was more the shock. I think most people have said they played really well, done really well. They've been, perfect for the 12 months practically, and that was a stinker. I don't think you can avoid the fact that was a stinker. Mm-hmm. And I listen. Do you not think I think he would have been saying that himself in the dressing room afterwards? It was a stinker to your own players. So I think some of the punters might have been a wee bit over the top, and maybe that's a reflection on the comments today. But like I say, interesting is the word for me. I thought it was an interesting kind of interesting choice of words, interesting timing. It was just all round interesting, wasn't it? More interesting than the game, that's for sure.
I think I'm right in saying, Mick, that you might be in the verge of getting chucked out of Celtic Park, but just before you go,
I'm waiting for the shutters might come down behind me, and I'm going to have to climb over a fence somewhere. That's going to be the problem.
Indiana Jones trying to get out of Celtic Park,
and there's no lights outside apparently, so it's the backup generators that keep this on. So this is going to be interesting if I get out here.
Well, look, we'll let you go, Mick. We've got plenty of comments on this, so we can get stuck into them. Mick, thank you very much for joining us on the Hotline Live.
No worries. All the best. See you later on.
Thanks, Mick. Michael Gannon there from Celtic Park.
Never disappoints.
Let me hit you with a few of the comments then, Keith, that have come in on Brendan Rodgers. BR backs his squad as players walk through fire for a manager like that. Big Phil tries to make excuses for his boys, so he gets no respect from anyone. Let's see this other one here. If I could find it, that would be great.
You get one job, Daniel.
I know. Here it is. Sam, BR right to have a go at our snowflake fans. This one here as well from... I'm sorry, it's my laptop's frozen on me, guys. Don't hold it against me. It's not working out for me here.
Your laptop's feeling the kind of same way as I'm right now.
I don't know.
Ready to pack it in.
Nah, I've been kicked out of our comments. So there's one there. Neil on Facebook. We walk the walk. Others do something different. I mean,
means.
Pretty fascinating comments from Rodgers. An interesting timing as well, as you say.
Yeah, it's not so much the timing of it. It's Brendan Rodgers is a fascinating character. He's an extremely intelligent man, and he's excellent at getting his messages across. And when he feels that there's something festering, something annoying him, then that's when he'll come out and he'll say. I mean, he said something to me the other day in the press conference before a couple of days before they went to Ibrox about, we're doing really well for a team that keeps getting hit by these mini slumps. And then he looked at me and smiled, and I said, well, actually, Brendan, it's mini wobbles. Get it right. But clearly that's been irking him. So when these things are irking, once he feels empowered enough, as he does right now, obviously at Celtic, he doesn't hold back when he feels that there's something that needs to be said. I'm interested to get right inside it. What is he looking to achieve by that? I'm guessing that what he's looking to achieve is that calm the thing down a little bit, get Celtic supporters, the kind of vast majority of them, that say, yeah, you're right, this is ridiculous, we're being way over the top, and just sort of calm it down. What he doesn't need is a period now of turbulence. But when you have a go at fans, there's always an element of risk. There's always an element that some fans don't like hearing, that don't want to be told. And especially, by the way, and I don't mind saying it, Celtic fans, because, and I've used the word entitled before, and I don't think they like hearing that one, but of course they've been conditioned over the last 10 years by the success that the club's had to be entitled. They think they're going to turn up and watch their side win everything, and they don't like it when there's, a significant defeat, or when a trophy gets away from them, or they genuinely start the season believing we're the best team in the country by a million miles. We've got bags more money than anybody else. We've got a better manager than anybody else. So, minimum we should be looking for here is the domestic treble.
Yeah.
That is, whether you like it or not, the word entitled, that is entitled. That is a sense of entitlement. And maybe Brendan Rodgers is trying to tone that down a little bit. Who knows? But yes, Mick said it. I'm saying it again. The word I would use for all that is interesting, fascinating, in fact.
Just before we move on from Celtic, I'll throw this comment at you live on YouTube. Rodgers should be addressing GT, I think means Greg Taylor, making the same mistakes game in, game out, but boy from Barca can't get a game. Why persist allowing Cal and Greg Taylor sideways? 1-2's going nowhere. The fans can sing what they like. It just occurred to me, Keith.
Well, there's an example.
Go on.
Of what I'm talking about. That not every fan will just kind of accept what Brendan said, feel kind of a little bit chastised and step back into line.
Oh, yeah.
There will be some that really don't want to be told how to behave by anybody, and might be needled by hearing this from the Celtic manager. I expect the vast majority will come back into line though.
As for fans singing about Kieran Tierney, we haven't had a hotline, I don't think, since the news came out that Celtic are in negotiations with Tierney. Look, if he's fully fit, he's a fantastic. I've said it before. When he's fully fit, he's genuinely a world-class left back. We're up there, Andy Robertson. We've got two of the best in the world. But that's a big if, isn't it, these days, for his fitness?
Well, how many weeks ago was it now? A couple of months ago, when you first asked me about did I expect Celtic to make a move for Kieran Tierney this season, and I said to you, yes, absolutely. And I said to you that I felt they would make a move in January. And now, whether or not that was with a view to signing at the end of the season or bringing him in halfway through this campaign, I was pretty sure that was being discussed and that was high on Celtic's agenda. for a number of reasons, not least the fact that I believe Celtic know that Kieran Tierney, for a variety of reasons, would be in favour of moving back to Glasgow at this particular time. And by the way, the fact that they left the left back situation a bit open ended at the start of the season, when at a time when they were meticulously planning what the squad looks like. Valle was brought in from Barcelona on a year-long loan, even though Greg Taylor hadn't signed a new contract. So everything pointed to they're going to make a move for Kieran Tierney. The move has been made. I don't think they'll find much resistance to it. I think Kieran Tierney will be a Celtic player by the end of this window. And then it's just a matter of, and it's the age-old thing with Kieran Tierney, how's his body hold up? Because if Kieran Tierney can get through this period, and there are some players who are troubled by injury, blighted by injuries throughout the course of their career, but actually the time off that it gives them during those years can get kind of bolted onto the end of their career. That, who's to say that doesn't happen with Kieran Tierney?
Yeah.
The medical history would make you worried that that's not going to be the case, and that there's every danger that you give him a massive contract and that his body just won't let him play.
It's not like he's 33, 34 either. He's 27.
He's young. He's a young guy.
Aye.
So I mean, imagine you get 6 years of Kieran Tierney, peak Kieran Tierney. It'd be a terrific signing. I think Celtic should try and make it happen. Of course I do. They are going to try and make it happen. There will be an argument that some will put forward about, as we said earlier, is he getting the James McCarthy contract? You can't make him one of the highest paid players at the club unless you're fairly sure that you're going to get a tune out of him and he's going to be available for selection week in, week out. And I'm not sure how Kieran Tierney can guarantee that. So is there a way of doing a contract where, you know, the more he plays, the more they pay? Perhaps. There's always ways of structuring something. And I think Kieran Tierney's desire to get back to Celtic should make those negotiations easier. I'm not saying straightforward, but easier to thrash out. I think he'll be a Celtic player in the next couple of weeks.
Time will tell, I guess. Before we finish, Keith, there's a couple other Premiership games we need to touch on. Aberdeen, man oh man, I don't even know where to start with Aberdeen.
No.
It's now 1 victory in 11, 10 without a victory. Are we confident they can stay up?
Yeah. Well,
That wasn't a joke before anyone comes in.
But of course, you say all this. If Jimmy Tillene had started the season with this run of results,
Aye.
he'd probably be out of job by now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So he's, you know, I think he certainly got a lot of goodwill stashed away in the bank by what Aberdeen achieved at the start of the season. That's evaporated now. He really needs to start coming good again and finding solutions, because if he can't find the solutions to the problems, then he's the wrong man in the wrong place, even regardless of how well he started in the job. And they are dropping like a stone. It's actually an appalling run of form now. But I tell you what, it's this league for it. Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I was looking at the table there after today's game. Do you know there's now 4 points between St Mirren in 6th place to Hearts in 11th?
Wow. Is that it? 4 points? That's
4
remarkable.
points between the top 6 and a relegation playoff.
Wow.
I mean, talk about being concertinaed. So it really tells you, sorry, excuse me, it really tells you that the second half of this season is going to be fascinating. Probably not so much at the top of the table, because Celtic are already, you know, they've launched the victory procession, and they will amble clear, stroll on to lift, you know, title number 4 in the trot. You're not going to get great competition there. I think Rangers look fairly safe now for second place, even though they've got they're so flaky away from home. Because today's results, Dundee United, just when you think that they're really, you know, motoring, they get beat at home at Hearts. Brilliant result for Hearts. That takes Hearts up the table. Well, doesn't it? It keeps them in 11th, but it pushes their points up to the point that, as we're discussing, 4 points between the top 6 and 11th. Hearts reaching the top 6 now becomes actually achievable. And who would have thought that 2 weeks ago? The league is incredible. It really is.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And Hearts, as you touch on, since I tipped them for relegation. They've won 2 in the last 3, and they beat Dundee United away today. So that was good.
I think you need to wind them in these predictions, Daniel.
Well, listen, if Clement comes good, then I'll take that into account.
Well, that'll be it. You'll need to retire.
Aye, exactly. And yeah, St Johnstone, last thing to touch on, 8 points adrift down at the bottom.
Shambles.
It does look like there's not no hope, but they do look like they're getting cut adrift a bit.
Shambles.
Yeah.
They're a shambles. And I think that would be the one thing that gave Hearts a bit of comfort over the last few weeks when they were looking at the table and wondering, are they in danger of getting dragged? No, they are in danger. They are dragged into it because they're sitting in the playoff place.
Aye.
But St Johnstone were a really obliging safety net, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I listened, by all accounts, from their game against Dundee today, get beat 3-1 at home, McDermott Park, booed off the pitch. But from all accounts, from what I was hearing, inexplicable tactical decisions, which made them so exposed, which made them easy for Dundee to pick off. Big win for Dundee. That's a horror show of a result for St Johnstone. And, you know, you look at Simo Valkyrie, and he certainly talks a good game, but I'm not sure that he has the players there to play the sort of football that he thinks he can get St Johnstone to play. I know he certainly doesn't have the defenders that can cope with being left exposed because 6-7 guys are, you know, charging up the pitch. And I can only see more pain coming St Johnstone's way between now and the end of the season. I think they're one of 4 sides that have never lost their place in the top flight since the creation of the SPL. I think it's Celtic, Aberdeen, St Johnstone and Motherwell, the 4 teams.
Here's one that will start for you though, Keith.
What I'm going to say is,
sorry, go on.
I think that's coming to an end for St Johnstone. I think that it's a really proud record. I can only see more pain ahead, I'm afraid.
Only one team in the Premiership has not taken points off Rangers during Philippe Clement's era, and that's St Johnstone. And who plays next? Rangers St Johnstone next Sunday.
Yeah, they've got Dens Park though on Thursday night first, haven't they, Rangers?
That's true.
And that's another difficult away day for them to negotiate. It's going to be fascinating.
Drop
See
point
what the sports scientists say.
Yeah. Well, look, Keith, I think that brings us to the end of a packed Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you very much for everyone watching at home. Thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow. Keith,
well, maybe.
I hope that cough sorts itself out. Plenty of Calpol tonight.
COVID permitting.
No, thanks, Keith. I appreciate it.
No worries, Daniel.
And we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching.